Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and I was always told how to voice radio, so today we're going to be looking at a new Guzzlord card. Ladies and gentlemen, this new Guzzlord card is one of the biggest boom or bust cards we've seen in quite some time. It is one of the biggest risk-reward cards we've seen in quite some time. It probably is going to end up being the biggest, memeiest card we've seen since the last time we got a Guzzlord card. This Guzzlord has huge HP, does huge damage, has huge downsides. I love Guzzlord now because the way he's being used in the Pokemon trading card game fills my heart with joy. So starting off then, Guzzlord, who was revealed and translated over at Pokebeach.com, the only place that has the translation at the time of recording, has 160 HP. Which for a basic Pokemon is frankly huge. Now it's not actually quite as big as Regigigas, who comes in with 180 HP as a basic Pokemon, but that is very much an outlier. To be perfectly clear, ladies and gentlemen, this is a huge Pokemon with a huge amount of HP. And going along with a huge amount of HP, we have a huge retreat cost of 4, but it does actually mean that you have the opportunity to use Heavy Ball here, which is quite nice, that always helps. Weakness to fighting is a slight issue with something like Buzzwole running around, but the HP here and the fact that it's not a GX Pokemon really helps. So Buzzwole needs to get up to 80 damage in order to get a one-hit KO here. So let's say Buzzwole has a strong energy on, well 50 damage, 100 with weakness, that's not enough. Say there is a Diancie Prism Star on the bench, now you're hitting 70 damage, 140 with weakness, that's not enough. You actually have to go and add a Regirock EX on the bench, along with a Diancie, along with a strong energy, just to go and get yourself a KO on this single prize Guzzlord. The HP here is really helping you. And actually, along with a huge HP, we've also got a resistance to Psychic. So something like a Garbodor, which might come along, is going to have 9 items in the discard to KO you. Remember, no choice band, because this is not a GX Pokemon. Plus the resistance, that's going to hurt. Something like an Espeon GX using something like a Psybeam is going to be doing a whopping 10 damage. It's not going to do that much. So all the intangibles here, all the basics are really nice, but we need a good attack, and in classic Guzzlord fashion, it does a huge amount of damage and costs a huge amount of energy. 4 darkness energy, 160 damage, which is frankly ridiculous. Although it's an Ultra Beast, which means that it does have a secondary effect revolving around the amount of prizes that you or your opponent have. All the non-GX Ultra Beasts have these, and it looks like they all will going forward. If you have 6, 4, or 2 prizes remaining, discard the top 10 cards of your deck. Now, the reason it's 6, 4, or 2 is quite simple. It basically means that if you use this to KO a GX at the beginning of the game, you discard 10 cards from your deck because you've got 6 prizes remaining. Then you've got 4 prizes remaining, you KO another GX, and then you've only got 2 prizes remaining. Do remember, though, that if you've got fewer than 10 cards in your deck, and then you use this to take your final 2 prizes, you can discard all the cards in your deck, but you win the game now. At the end of the turn, we check and go, oh, you've taken all your prize cards, you win the game. And then at the beginning of your next turn, we'd look to see if you can draw a card, and if you can't, you lose the game, but that's okay, because, well, by that point, you've already won the game by taking all of your prizes. But honestly, I look at Guzzlord and I think, I'm down with this. This is a Pokemon that can literally win the game in 3 attacks and can attack on the first turn going second. Now, the 4 energy cost is quite high, but we've got ways to pay this. Chief among them, we've got Max Elixir. Max Elixir, you look at the top 6 cards of your deck. If you find a basic energy there, you can attach it to a benched basic Pokemon. So you've got a Guzzlord on your bench, you hit a Max Elixir, you are off. It's a little bit more awkward, but you could always here use something like a Darkrai GX, which has the restore ability, or the restoration ability I should say, and restoration puts it from the discard onto the bench with a darkness energy attached, and then you would use something like an energy switch to move the energy over to Guzzlord. I'm not saying this is what you actually should do, I'm saying it is an option. What is great is that generally if you're using something like a Darkrai, your opponent's going to think brilliant, I'm going to use a Guzma to bring that into the active and KO it for 2 prizes, and if I'm the Guzzlord player, I'm going brilliant. Please take out my 0 energy Darkrai while I sit here taking 2 prizes with my giant Guzzlord. The other thing we can do here is we can use B-String. Now, B-String isn't out yet. I have done a video on B-String. I'll pop a link to that one in the description. Although, just to be clear, B-String is phenomenal and it is absolutely going to see a huge amount of play. B-String is a great new item card, which will be out by the time this comes out, which can only be played if your opponent has 3 or 4 prize cards remaining, and then you search your deck for up to 2 basic energy and attach them to one of your Ultra Beasts. So essentially, the play here is very, very simple. You wait until your opponent has taken 2 or 3 prizes, and then you go nuts, digging through your deck as fast as you can, playing as aggressively as you can, because if you hit 2 B-String, that is 1 Guzzlord done, got the energy on straight out of the blue. And time you combine B-String with Max Elixir, with just your energy attachments for the game, for the turns, all of a sudden you are not looking at such a ridiculous attack cost. An attack cost of 4 coloured energy is generally not good. But when you build in all these tricks we've got, it's actually not that bad at all. And of course, another thing you could do, and I would argue probably should do, if you're playing a Guzzlord deck, play Yveltal. Oblivion Wing for 1 darkness energy does 30 damage and attaches a darkness energy from your discard pile to one of your benched Pokemon. Firstly, this is going to help you to get your energy into play. Well, that's good. And secondly, it's going to soften up some of your opponent's Pokemon. So if you do, say, 30 damage to a Buzzwole GX, well, now it's only got 160 HP remaining, Guzzlord will get a KO. You do 30 damage to a Zoroark GX, that brings it down to 180 HP, which means a Choice Band will get a KO with a Guzzlord. And then, of course, you sit behind Yveltal for a couple of turns, doing a bit of damage, accelerating a couple energy cards. And then sooner or later, your opponent takes a KO or 2 on those Yveltal. And then they've got 3 or 4 prizes remaining, and you go nuts with B-String. I can legitimately see a situation where you can actually have a deck which does get the energy onto Guzzlord fast enough, and you are off and rolling here. And as long as you're KOing GX Pokemon for 2 prizes, I'm okay with discarding 10 cards from your deck. Now, don't get me wrong, every so often you'll have a hideous discard where you get rid of stuff like B-String, but you can always play stuff like Energy Recycler to make sure that if you discard too much energy, you can get it back. You can always play stuff like Rescue Stretcher so that if you get rid of too many Pokemon, you get them back. You will absolutely get turns where you discard the top 10 cards of your deck and it's an absolute travesty. But you just sit there for a couple of turns using Yveltal, and as soon as your opponent's taken a couple of prizes, then you go nuts with B-String, etc. And as soon as you've got 3 Guzzlord powered up, it doesn't matter what you discard, you should be able to win the game. Of course, before we finish, let's sit and have a quick look at the damage. Don't forget you've got either Reverse Valley or Devoured Field to have an extra 10 damage. At the moment, Devoured Field is better because we see Metal decks but not Dragon. If Dragon ever becomes more popular than Metal, then you would switch and play Reverse Valley instead. Then, of course, you've got Choice Band, and you're easily here going up to 200 damage without breaking much of a sweat. And there's nothing to stop you playing something like a Tapu Koko to spread some damage around in the early game, or like I've said, just using something like an Yveltal. I'm not saying this is going to be the card that breaks the format, and I'm not saying this is going to be the top deck. What I am saying is, if you can get the energy on fast enough, you've got 160 HP, you're doing 160 damage, and you're a single prize Pokemon. Then we've got many different ways to get the energy on here. This card is bursting with potential. Maybe it will be a one-of in some Darkness decks, or maybe it will be a meme deck all on its own. Either way, ladies and gentlemen, I am a huge fan of this card. Also, look out for it at pre-releases, because people are going to try and use this at pre-releases. I'm going to give this 4 Wassies, and you know what? It seems generous. Maybe it is generous, but I adore this card. I love the potential. It makes me happy, and I'm giving it 4 Wassies. But if you don't think I should have given it 4 Wassies, if you've got an alternate number of Wassies of which you think it is deserving, I've got great news. Get yourself over to the comment section, pop a comment down below. I would be delighted to hear it. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and so on, you can do so by going to patreon.com/PTCGRadio. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.